Go ahead and get started. Good evening and welcome to the Coffeyville City Commission meeting for Tuesday, April 14th. We'll take roll.
Mayor Bauer,
Present.
Commissioner Maxon,
Here.
Commissioner York,
Here.
Vice Mayor Doan,
Here.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Here.
Tonight's invocation will be led by Mark Hall. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
God, thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Give us and guide us to be leaders your people need. Help us to see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence of your creation that it deserves. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build our community worthy of the residents of Coffeyville. We ask this as your stewards, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. City Commission meeting minutes for Tuesday, March 24th, 2020, and 2020 appropriation ordinance number AO-20-07 in the amount of $923,583.99. Questions, comments, or amendments to these two items on the consent agenda?
Just a real quick recap. Payroll amounted to a little over $400,000 out of this $900,000. We had the tax money owed to CRMC for the tax collection part of the sales tax, about $63,000. There was an excess of $75,000 for medical premiums, and also our portion to the library that we assessed of $26,000. And so, and then on there, I see mowing has started, and there were some payments to those contracted that are to mow houses and so forth that we take care of mowing.
Yes.
So that's all that I've got.
I had a couple of questions real quick. There was one for Cut It Out. It was, I believe, $2,065. And I couldn't tell, it was for cleanup. Were those on some of the homes we just had demolished, or do you know, Mark?
I will check into it. Could I repeat that vendor again?
Cut It Out?
I will.
It's Cut It Out tree trimming and lawn. It says lot cleanup times 10, so I'm assuming that was the 10 structures that we had removed.
I will double check that and get back with you, sir.
So my question on that is, if that's the case, and then we've got more charges from G&G for roll-offs, that looks like it was involved with that too. I thought we had a bid on that project, and so I'm wondering if that was an overrun on the bid, or why that wasn't included in the original bids.
I will check with that
Okay.
and find that out. I think it is related to that project,
Mhm.
the sidewalk project.
That's all I have.
We good?
Yep.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mayor Bauer, seconded by Commissioner Van Oster to approve items 1 and 2 of the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner Maxon.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Mayor Bauer.
Aye. Comments from the public? Since there's no one here, I assume we are not going to be doing this portion of the, is there no one in the hall either, correct?
No, there's not.
I would like to, if the mayor would, thank the public for their understanding
Absolutely.
and you know, we appreciate that they're working with us as we work through this.
Unusual circumstances.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll move into new business. Coffeyville Recreation Commission Board has 2 applicants, Lisa Collins and Alan Gillis. We also have 2 vacant spots on the board. They are not present tonight, but does anyone have anything that they would like to talk about regarding these 2 applicants?
I do not.
I'm fine with them.
I think these 2, from what I read through their applications, I think they would be very suited to fill these 2 vacancies. So I'll make a motion to appoint Lisa Collins and Alan Gillis to the Coffeyville Recreation Commission Board.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mayor Bauer, seconded by Commissioner Van Oster, to appoint Lisa Collins and Alan Gillis to the Coffeyville Recreation Commission Board. Commissioner York?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster?
Aye.
Mayor Bauer?
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon?
Aye.
Public Library Board of Directors appointment, we have 1 applicant, it's Sue Rzinski. Anyone have anything they would like to say regarding Sue's application?
I think this is a reappoint, I mean,
It is.
she's been on there before, and she's done a good job, and I know this is her passion, and I have no problem with that.
Is that a motion?
I'll make it a motion, if you want.
I'll second.
I didn't want to steal everyone's thunder, so.
No, that's okay. I wasn't sure if anybody else had anything to say.
Motion is made by Commissioner Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner York to appoint Sue Rzinski to the Public Library Board of Directors. Vice Mayor Doan?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster?
Aye.
Mayor Bauer?
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon?
Aye.
Commissioner York?
Aye.
Resolution number R-20-21, a resolution to approve entry into a mutual aid agreement with GRDA. City Manager Mark Hall will make comments.
Mayor, Commissioners, for your consideration tonight is a mutual aid agreement with GRDA, which you're familiar with as the Great River Dam Authority. It is with this agreement that the city should, in a catastrophic event, which is strictly voluntary, but would possibly assist. Of course, with this is there's other communities that are involved, and should something catastrophic happen to Coffeyville, they would come to our aid and assist. I think this is a good for our neighbors. It is one of those, GRDA is in our area, and it's not in Florida or somewhere else. It is one of those that I think this is good for the city and GRDA. So therefore, I would, for your consideration, is the approval of the mutual aid agreement with GRDA.
I just want to say that I think it's a very proactive move.
Yep.
For the most part, our electric company has been able to take care of us when we've had some major issues in very reasonable amount of time, but you never know what can happen. And so I think this is being very proactive and working with them to make
If
sure.
memory serves me correct, our crews have gone and helped in others as well in those
Yes,
circumstances.
Yep.
a lot of
Now
our
with the
crews
Florida.
went to Joplin
Yeah.
and stuff, but
Yeah.
electric service, we did go to Florida
Yes.
at one time, but this would be more in our area, and the cities that GRDA services is mostly in Oklahoma, but they would come to our aid.
I think this is a very good mutual agreement because if anyone's watched news besides the COVID-19, you've seen that South Carolina got hit with tornadoes. Tremendous amount. We had a supplier wipe out their
Mississippi
factory.
did, yeah.
Yeah, had wiped out one of the factories that supplies parts to many facilities. They're auto equipment, but they're a conglomerate that we buy a lot of parts from. So
Yes.
I think that is a great thing because you just never know when it's going to happen, or if
Yes.
it, God forbid that it would, but
That's right.
we may not have the ability to get ourselves back up and running.
Yep.
So
I make a motion to approve resolution number R-20-21, a resolution to approve entry into a mutual aid agreement with GRDA.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maxon, to approve Resolution R-20-21 as presented. Commissioner Van Oster,
Aye.
Mayor Bauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon,
Aye.
Commissioner York,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Resolution number R-20-22, a resolution to authorize the mayor to execute an amendment to the city, to the city's Section 125 Flexible Benefit Plan. City Manager Mark Hall will make comments.
Mayor, Commissioners, just to try to explain this, the federal government enacted the CARES Act, which basically for a flexible spending account increases the items that can be used for that account. So it is one of those that this is kind of a housekeeping based on the federal expansion of what items that could be included that the person with the account can spend it on.
And my understanding is once it'll go right back to the way it was previously, once everything ends, correct?
They'll probably review, but this is one of those related to the COVID-19.
Yep.
Just, I'm reading down through here what it covers. Just, have we notified our staff of
Yes,
the over-the-counter and stuff?
yes. It is one of those, there's certain products that are available that this really addressed more so. And those are listed.
Yep.
Very good.
Good. Any other questions, comments?
I'll move to approve Resolution R-20-22 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor Doan, seconded by Commissioner Van Oster, to approve Resolution R-20-22 as presented. Mayor Bauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon,
Aye.
Commissioner York,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Resolution number R-20-23, a resolution to approve the waiver of certain building permits and inspection fees. City Manager Mark Hall will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, for your consideration tonight is a resolution to waiver a certain building permit. I would like to, I guess, take the time. I had received an email with some very good questions from Commissioner York, and it has, and I'll pass out some information. It is one of those that the questions were very good. Yeah, if you'll pass that out. And regarding the permitting process, and what this poses is that due to, and you can see the amount that we collected in 2019 permits, it is one of those, our valuation continues to decline. What we found in this was, and I think a very good point that Commissioner York made, is that you know, what does this do and where are you getting this information from and how? What you see before you is this is a revision of the building permit process, and you can see this is in 2009, the first one. And basically it lists on there is the top is these are all the things that require permits, and it's basically anything connected to the residential dwelling, commercial, or this, new construction, which of course would require the general, anything requiring any of this list, and it goes even into fence construction. What these permit requirements are, and they just address, as far as the permit, is the idea of the permit is for safety. That simply is when you pull a permit, we will set up an inspection and we will go out and make sure the work is done correctly. And that's for the safety of the community. It is, the other benefit that we get is for certain items, this is valuation. This is increasing the value of the property. I know that's sad in certain ways because everyone likes to have lower taxes, but in one way or the other, you know, the city still provides the services, so if valuation goes down, in a sense, cities raise taxes to cover that shortfall. This is the permit process is basically how to send to county that this property has made improvements, and that could be anywhere from, as it says here, that could be anything that is to the property that improves, remodeling, alterations, renovation, that, which, you know, we've had questions, and we've contacted Topeka and also Emporia and other cities, but there is, and it doesn't specify and break down, but is anything connected with those processes where, and it does add value to that, is a permit, which was a good question, is citing. Citing pulls that. Now there's not a license required unless the city chooses to do so. And that is other things that if the city wants to do, like some cities, requires a tree trimmer to carry a license and insurance. And that's just protection of the community. So this was, and like I say, the first is in 2009. And if you look at the second one, this goes a little further in detail. It continues like the first one, but then it's added on, which goes into further detail of, you know, electrical permits and other permits and plumbing permits. What we were proposing, and that is that it's not to penalize. It was trying to sit there and say that in the idea of economic growth, to sit there and put value, because our valuation, as you're aware of, last budget, no fault of our own, went down $93,000 in valuation. And that, you know, the city chose to not increase property taxes to cover that loss. So it is one of those, this gets with, as far as to say, is if you do the work and you get a permit, there is no cost. You would really see this in new construction, which will be more out in further years as we go along this, is where you get, and like it says in here, a square footage permit fee. Usually you'll see that in the construction of a new home or a new building, and that will be based on square footage. You can do it based on dollars spent. But in that, what we proposed in this is that that will include the policy that we would cap that at $10,000. So if you had a project that would exceed $10,000 in permitting, that first $10,000 would be free. But after that $10,000, that would be, and you're talking about a large building that there would be that excessive amount. But as far as homes and that stuff, you will probably look at an estimated around $3,000 to $6,000. So that would be well below. But that would be for new construction, and this is something that we're working on gradually and slow to, I guess, ease the community into this process. We had an examining board, and after doing some research, the examining board went out roughly in 2007 now we found. We thought it was 10. The examining board did not really do anything in 2005 and 6. So we've had not having an examining board since roughly 2007, which it is to where we're at now is trying to ease people into where we need to go as a city. This permitting process is a new thing. It is to sit there and try to say that we need to get people used to pulling permits for the work. And right now, why wouldn't you pull a permit? It's free, in a sense. So that's what this proposes, is trying to sit there and, for the work being done, this first item is just waiving the permit fee process, permit fee amount. And that was what's before you now, and I will explain the next one that we lead in, but this simply gives the building department the authority to waive permit fees. Any questions?
So,
ahead.
yeah, I have several actually. So, well, I'm all for enforcing codes, and I don't want anybody to think I'm not, right? But here's the issue we have as a community. So, according to our county assessor, we have 765 residential properties within our city limits that are in fair minus to unsound condition. Some of these changes in here are, some would say they're not changes, but I say they are, because in the past we haven't required building permits for some of these activities. So it is a change. It is a change that was not communicated out to any of the contractors. So a lot of them are kind of getting caught by surprise by this. I did send Mark an email on this a few weeks back, and I would like for us to have a work session around this and around the codes and what we are looking at as a community. My concern is we've got a lot of properties to get cleaned up and fixed. And if we start making it more onerous and more difficult to do that process, we're not going to get anything done. So, not to get on my soapbox, but that's my concern. I would ask that we table both of these next two actions until we can have a work session and kind of go through these building codes and what we're looking at. I know I reached out to a former building inspector for Coffeyville. He said, yes, the city did adopt the 2012 International Building Codes, but not in whole. So there are parts of it that they did not adopt simply because it was too onerous to do so and not cost effective for our market. So when you look at a Topeka market where housing values are high, you can justify some of that cost. Here you can't. I mean, you're doing good to break even on a project, much less make any money off of it. So if we add more cost to that, you're making it where nothing will happen.
I guess is, and just wanted to explain, we're looking at what you see is, and I guess what we plan to do is explain the second, which you look is 2017.
Mm-hmm.
This is in effect. This has been in effect. The only thing is we haven't
Police.
Gonna say-
required the collection of a permit.
No, I was going to say, you haven't. We
No.
used to pay a permit fee.
But this is, and I think in this is all due respect, because this is something we've got to work for the best of the city, going forward. And I think nobody wants hurt. But this isn't about code. This doesn't have anything to do with code. This is just the permit fees that haven't been collected that have been on the books. Now, the code, we talked about certain things. There was residential that they were requiring in trying to do the research, that it was in the adopted 2012 that had where residential property would be have a sprinkler system. That's just ludicrous, and ludicrous here. So those are code issues, which I think there has to be go back in a further review of those codes. But what this is the permits, the permitting that, as you can see, this is what was in effect and done in 2017, and it's been on the books. It's not, this has nothing to do with like I say, sprinkler systems or this, or the way the house is built. This is just simply putting a value on a permit that they would obtain.
Basically, what you're saying is we're not changing or implementing anything new. We're just simply taking the value, taking the cost away from.
The cost of the fee,
Okay.
the permit fee.
So-
But I think the address of, from what we are looking as we go through this, permits, we have people getting permits now. There's $6,700 worth of permits pulled, so it is, in effect, this is sitting there, is saying this is a permit process, but the code is where, and of course, we'll have licensing discussion, code, and those things that have been on the books. We looked for changes that were supposedly to 2012, and we just can't find. They were supposed to highlight those and make those apparent. We can't find, but we think that was done. There's memory of it. We've asked, Mr. Bradshaw, we've asked, all the people that have been involved in this, in inspection, is there was a going through and looking at things that did not apply. The only thing through changes over time, it was never changed by ordinance. So that is something that we would need to do on code and sit down and go through the codes.
So that, it sounds like we're talking maybe two different subjects.
To some extent, so,
There's still some procedure stuff that needs to be changed.
there is, and there are
And that's right
procedures here. The other piece of that is, so how do we determine that building permit cost is based on the cost of the project or the square footage? Why can it not just be a set, here's the cost of it, no matter what size project it is? Because we're paying our people irregardless of whether it's $1 million project or $1,000 project, they're making the same wage. It's not like they get more if it's a bigger project. Rather than just completely waiving a fee, let's set a flat fee, here's what it is for anything, right? So,
Yep.
and that's what I'm saying. I think there's probably more discussion to occur on this than just,
So I'm guessing the 6,000 probably isn't even close to the amount of work that's being done.
No.
It's unpermitted, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Work that's being
Probably
done
So
without
the other
permits.
piece of this, in the research I've done on this, it is up to each jurisdiction to decide what they want as far as those codes are. So it is something that this board needs to address as far as what we want to see for our community. Because not everything works for every community, so
What's the state regulation?
there really isn't. It's up to the local jurisdictions on that.
The
Do
state
they have
has-
advice? I mean, do they kind of steer you in one direction or another?
The state, as far as municipal code, that is truly the ICC, the International Code Council. The International Code Council is construction standards throughout the United States, but those are the mostly widely adopted. There is IBC and others, but ICC is the most adopted. Those give the minimum standards for construction, products that are approved for construction, how construction is done. What the state does is over on this side is sit there and says, basically, this is by law of who can do that work. That's where they set aside testing requirements by state statute, which is state law.
But even those, Mark, are still subject to local jurisdiction, so you don't have to institute those locally if you do not choose to do so. Because I looked it up for Kansas state law on contractors licensing. It is up to each jurisdiction as far as what that entails. there is a state law on what it takes for that license, but it's still up to the jurisdictions to determine what they want to enact on that.
Well, and we can have that. I mean, I was just going to say is just to clarify, and there's no problem in, tabling or doing anything like
Right.
that. It's just, you do have just, code is on this side and licensing, and that is something that we will have to hurdle. That is no doubt. Permitting is on this side. Permitting, and like you say, like you see, this is 2017. This was by Dennis?
Dennis Jacobs.
This is by Dennis Jacobs. This is, basically, these are things that give a value. And we're not saying that you, as an owner, when you're doing things, it would cost you a dime. Most building departments, I would say, is if you ask them, the goal is self-sufficiency. That way, it doesn't cost. That's why you do have that when somebody's going out to work and inspecting a house, and they have to do several inspections, that's why the permits are higher. It is one of those that usually a department is, as it grows, is the goal is if it is self-sufficient, then in a sense, my tax dollars doesn't go to pay for somebody else's inspection. So that's the consistent across the state. But like I said, this is going to be something for our future, and this is respect to, Commissioner York, and in respect to the commission. This is a tough thing, and like I said, is when you go back and find the history, and you have an examining board that was for licensing, and that board did the testing, and there was a lot of tests given in Pittsburgh. It is one of those, a lot of these things, and then when you say, well, when did it dissolve, and you got first prior to 2010, now it's come 2007, and then they're saying very inactive was 2 years before. So this, in a sense, the licensing is a new critter, and what we've been working with is trying to ease people to get into the licensing part. Then we had the virus come up, which there's a testing center in Tulsa. There's a testing center over in Pittsburgh. But you sit there, we were going to try to, of course, get a testing center here to make it easier. But these are all things that even though there was a board, we're just trying to get through. And then you ask is when the code set down, did the codes were reviewed, and if they were, and what we've tried to find is, I think, all well and good. There were certain things done, because people remember certain things being removed from the ICC code, but they were never formally taken care of by ordinance. So those are things that we have to do that, things that just don't apply. You can imagine we don't have, it's understandable in apartment complexes or something like that. But then when you sit there in a house to have a sprinkler system, yes, smoke detectors and that stuff, but there's stuff that in there that is for safety, it's all for safety, but you have to wade through it and find. Like I said, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, even though sad thing that it hasn't been done. It's just sitting there going that we are going with other cities are the first class, and it is trying to figure out our situation. We thought by the permit process being waived that we would work with people. This is not going to change overnight, but it would be, instead of saying that we work and you come in, you got to pay a permit fee. And a lot of these are just $10 anyway. But it is one of those that is a permit fee. We're not going to have a rush of construction. It was just one of those, as we start ramping this up to do great things in housing, which we've got to turn in expansion, that we start off by sitting there saying, come to us, and I know you're aware of a possible building that might come to us in the future. Somebody wanting to level something, demolish something, that you sit there and say, hey, now they'll get $10,000 worth of permitting, which it'll cost more for their construction, but this is if you build a new house, and come in, we have a local here, that is doing across from the Midland, that would sit there and say, as you go forward in your permitting, bring that up, and there's not any permit fees. And they were actually asking about that. So it is one of those that, this is just, to address permits. But I do understand and respect, Commissioner York and concern and all the commission, because this is something different. And to sit there and say that it's been done consistent in that since 2005, no. We've had different on and off, hot and cold interpretations and this stuff. And like I say, you had an examining board that was key to licensing, and that thing, it hasn't been around since 2007.
Yep.
I mean, that's 13 years of, and there's got to be trying to work everybody to it. This is we go out, letters, if it approved, the letters will go to, all the licensed tradesmen. It'll be informing of them. Of course, we'll put something up on our screen that permitting and letting them know. And that's how it would go out to the public. If approved, and if it needs to be something addressed later, that's fine. We're just trying to move slowly on the things that would ease people into the water. And this is to tell somebody it doesn't cost you a dime to go get a permit. Okay, well, let's ease them into the process of doing it.
And I don't have a problem with that, Mark. My question is, some of the stuff we're asking to be permitted that hasn't been required in the past, I would like to have some discussions around that type of thing before we start making changes, just so we know exactly what is going to require a permit and what is not.
I mean, I think what both, if you look at, I think, and I understand your question, that is something, if we need to answer, but if you look at page of 2009, and page 1, they're exactly the same, and what they do is say, anything related to construction, and that's the thing, is gonna require a permit. If you put siding on, that adds value to your home, that will require a permit. If you do put windows, this doesn't exclude anything that adds value to your home.
But we don't have requirements to build fence, and it's listed here as well.
Yeah, but this isn't new. This is,
And that's why I'm asking
Yeah.
for more discussion
Right.
around it.
Need
Because
some
it's-
clarification.
Yeah, and not to try and be difficult
Yeah.
about it or anything, it's just, I mean, this is pretty important if we're going to get things fixed in this community. And I just have real concerns with making it more difficult or more onerous to do things than what it already is.
And we should set a time frame on it. And, it says it can be canceled without notice at the convenience of the city. It should be reviewable every year or every 2 years, or however we need to set it up. But that way we do
Yeah.
bring it to the forefront and we talk about it again to update it.
I don't mind having a work session. I don't want to, even though this isn't new per se, I don't want to put something else out there that we're not going to enforce, because that's the position we're in right now. And to me, it's absolutely foolish to put out guidance, resolution, ordinance, whatever, and not enforce it.
Well, I would like our tradespeople in town to have some say-so in some of this too. So I would like to have their input on what they see.
Yeah. And I'm on board with the work session. And I think this probably deserves a work session, to be quite honest, in my opinion, because I think this is a little more in-depth than what I had originally given it credit for when I was reading through everything. So not anything that I didn't know that was coming, but probably not in the depth that I thought it was going to go towards. So I think Commissioner York brings up some valid points. I think the initial kickoff, when we do roll this out, we say it's zero cost for the permitting, so that we do get the initial surge of, hey, the contractors and these individuals know that they have to go get this stuff, and it's free, so.
And we
And
set
you get them in,
parameters.
So
and
we
you
can-
set, right, we set some parameters and we set some, here's our expectations. Again, to Commissioner York's point, maybe, I don't know, why do we have to have so many steps along the way on cost? Why can't we just say for every X amount, it's this, you know, if it's for every $1,000 the project is, it's X amount not to exceed this amount,
Certain
right?
amount.
I mean, we could simplify it, I think. We don't have to have there's what, 1, 2, 3, there are about 6 steps here of different price ranges.
I think it's the way it was prior to the '09 revision.
Yeah.
It was,
It
yeah.
was, it's been
So-
like that.
I think it deserves a little more discussion. I mean, I would bet we could wrap
The
some.
issue with that is, with COVID-19 right now,
Yep.
it's hard to have a good public discussion on it where you can get everybody together and do that.
I don't disagree
I
with
still
you.
think before we start making a lot of changes in this, it needs to have that public discussion before we really roll a lot of stuff into
Yeah.
this, so.
But I would be hard pressed to believe that most contractors out there don't have to go get permits to
Most
do
of them do,
most
yes.
anything that they're
Absolutely.
going to do anyway. I mean,
They're
they
gonna
know
have
it's
some
there,
input.
right? I mean, they know that
Makes
this
it
is
better.
something that
Yep.
is expected of them from
Absolutely.
any city that they work in.
So
But-
I've never done a project where I have not gotten my permits, right? So,
Exactly.
Yeah, but, yeah.
So, but I do think we need it would be good for some clarification, because it's easy to, I mean,
I just don't want it to be more difficult for people to get
And
things
not-
done,
and to-
right? So,
to
yeah.
Commissioner Doan's point, we don't enforce it, right?
Well, exactly, yeah.
I mean, you can build fence in a day, and code enforcement's not gonna be around and even know that there was a fence built
If you
that
come in
day.
and try to pull a permit to build fence, there's nothing to pull,
Right. Well, yeah, and there's no definition of what fences are,
because I've asked.
That's right.
truly.
And those are the things that we have that we've noticed that on the code side,
Right.
that needs to have an understanding, because why would somebody have a fence permit? Right now it is in plumbing, there's a requirement of a hot water heater permit. And people go, well, why would you have to get a permit? Well, the idea is the permit is for us to come out and inspect, be it you, the homeowner that pulled the permit, is that you did it safe.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
And
so-
that's the only
something we can
reason
make
for the
sure.
permit is,
But then I question,
But even if
do
you
we
just,
do we have a certified plumber that works for the city that can come out and inspect to make sure they
Yes.
did that correctly?
yes. We have, and this is as far as what the electric department does, the electrical inspections. We do have a mechanical, and we do have a plumbing, and that is through water, you know.
it's
water
usually Randy
department
Barg or
knows.
Jim Bradshaw, one of the others might do it, yeah.
So
Yep.
it is, and Matt and those are being, in studying for testing and passing those certifications, which we have not had here.
Right.
We have not had here.
That's why I
Is-
posed the question. 'Cause-
Right. From the
That's-
building aspect of it, no, we don't have a certified person to go do a
Right.
building inspection, right. From plumbing, electrical, mechanicals, yes, we do have.
Well, I propose we table the next 2 items on the agenda till further meetings, so we can have some additional discussion around these 2.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mayor Bauer, seconded by Commissioner York, to table Resolution R-20-23 and Resolution R-20-24. Commissioner Maxon,
Aye.
Commissioner York,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster,
Aye.
Mayor Bauer.
Aye. Where we at here? Okay. Item number 7, future commission meeting discussion in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Mayor, Commissioners, I'm going to have Chris Felix come out,
Okay?
and he'll kind of go over some kind of options, you know, that the commission would consider. he's up on technology and I'm not. So, in fact, I see him coming out here, but there is, I was going to say that in our discussions with the league, just to give you an idea, they are looking at this more long-term. This week, the school systems are meeting, and they're not talking about restart. They're talking about starting next year in that difficulty. So it is one of those, I see this continuing. You know, it could be June, it could be July, somewhere in there. Even when we restart Kansas again, this will probably continue. I think it, so there's several options he can explain, and you see one of them.
Yep.
One of them right now, what we did is we put the chairs out there, and that way we could still practice if somebody comes. If we did remain in this and somebody did show up, which they've been very understanding, we could seat, and then if they wanted to approach the commission, then we can ask them to come in. So he'll explain the others.
I'm pretty sure Mark has discussed with you the other options that I sent him a couple weeks ago. Of course, the one option is in-person meetings like we've been doing. Another option was a teleconference, phone-in type thing. There are several options out there. The city has their own phone system we can use. We're limited on the number of calls we can bring in. There's a free service that I think it's freeconference.com or something like that, where you can bring in a little more. Controlling who's in the room, that kind of thing is kind of difficult. The other option that seems to be very popular with everybody right now is Zoom. We can have each of you Zoom into the meeting from wherever you want to be. To allow the public to participate, there's a waiting room. So when we get to a particular agenda item and a public citizen wants to comment on that, they basically raise their hand in the waiting room and we allow them. Same thing with public comments. Zoom also ties into our YouTube channel, so it streams automatically out there. So it. Okay.
I don't know what all they own, maybe if they go, I don't know.
Well, I knew about
Concerning about Zoom bombing.
Yeah, I was going to say that we've heard about that.
Yeah.
Having your own private meeting ID with a password, you limit your exposure to that kind of stuff. So, and like I said, we'll have the waiting room option, so nobody can just come on in and boom, I'm in your face. We can see what's going to happen. So we don't need to make the news.
Right, no, that wouldn't be a good thing.
So my recommendation would be Zoom, but I'm more than comfortable going in any direction you guys choose.
So would Zoom open up the city's network to anybody being able to access the network?
No, this is all on Zoom's cloud.
I had 3 Zoom meetings today, so I don't have a problem doing that. All the teachers are talking to the kids and therapy and all that, so, yeah, I don't mind doing that. I don't know, I mean, you're talking about long-term, and I've heard that as well, so I don't know how long this is gonna last. It seems like the proposed peak, that the additional cases have kind of died down. No pun intended. That's slow.
Lesson.
Yeah, decreased.
But I don't know, actually, I don't know how long the deaths are gonna continue to accumulate as well, so.
I think what they're saying is they're more concerned if they'll lower it and then it opens right
Right
back up.
back up.
That's what China's starting to see. They had their biggest day-to-day of COVID cases
Well,
again.
and
They're
there's
back up
no
over
guarantee of
150
when your
cases today.
your social distancing is going to end as well. So
Yeah, and we can't.
Although I don't have a problem with what we're doing here either. I think this works fine as far as that moves too.
You can always, and we could, in like like say one option is if everybody wants to Zoom, we could still have this open, which would allow more, if somebody wishes to attend, then they could Zoom watching.
Mhm.
And then basically I'd be the only one here.
I'm
Yeah.
flexible. I'm open to doing Zoom or to what you proposed, really.
What we're doing here. Either or.
Whatever you'd like.
I think why don't we go ahead and set up the Zoom? That way we have the flexibility and option that if we feel like we need to, if I get to feeling like I don't want to be around anybody, there you go.
Okay.
We have that ability to do that.
There is a small monthly cost associated with going with an account that we would need.
Okay.
I think it's $14.99 or $19.99 a month, so it's,
We can handle that one.
yeah. I just wanted you to be aware.
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
There's a cost
we
associated.
appreciate it.
So,
Would you like and because we're gonna have time, would you like a full-fledged try next meeting? And then if it doesn't work, we can always go back,
Sure.
you know?
Doesn't make a difference to me. I'm
Would
good
you
with
like
it.
I recommend we try before.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're gonna do that.
okay.
And I don't mind, coming to visit with each of you, getting things set up and testing things out. I mean, whatever you guys would like to do, we'll make happen.
Okay.
But we could have the goal of trying it after you get set up, but trying it next meeting, and then if it doesn't work, we can all try something else.
Yep.
Okay.
So part of this discussion with the next meeting, Chuck's gonna publicize and present for a CDBG grant. It's a public, so are we good with that?
He just asked his question is he needs to write down how this was a public hearing. And that he needs to write Zoom or whatever.
But the
And
public can still be involved, correct?
Yes.
They'll
Yeah,
be in
with-
the
with
waiting room, correct?
Yeah. And that will be a feature we'll have to mess with because it gets kind of squirrely how you let certain people in at a certain time, and so we'll have to play that one a little bit. But
So is the state all right from a comment aspect with the Zoom features?
yeah, I mean, in fact, what we're doing is far more gracious, and that's what saying on the radio this morning, that this commission is trying to be open and transparent, and they thank the community. It's gotten to some that, we'll just say, when the Attorney General, their interpretation was basically that if we make an effort, we can do anything. And usually those are the ones that are gonna get in trouble, but this
Right.
commission has made a solid effort to always try and be open.
I think
Yeah.
it's important. I mean,
Yeah.
we need to be open.
That's right.
Yeah, flexible and available. So, yeah, I just think we have the opportunity to go either direction. With technology the way it works today, it would be silly for us to close that channel down, to
Right.
not have the ability. And it might even be good that even if we did meet and not allow people in here, we Zoom to where people could Zoom in so they're not sitting in here too, right? We could even have that ability. I mean, if it comes down to where we all decide we're gonna come sit in this room, we can still have
Yes.
people,
We will have-
virtual audience, I
we will
guess, as
have
much
to
as.
figure out how to get the audience invited. The problem is if we put this out on Facebook, not everybody who follows Coffee Bill is a
Right.
citizen, and
Right.
we don't
Yep.
want somebody
Well,
in
you-
Florida making a comment during our meeting. So
I know everybody thinks everybody's on Facebook, but it's actually a pretty small portion of the population.
It really is.
Can you put it on utility bills?
Yeah.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking, if you
That'd
could
be
post
good.
it on utility bills.
Based on the amount.
Yeah. They look at that part. I don't know. Again, I just think we just need to be as flexible as we can be.
Absolutely.
Because I know that there are a lot of people that do like to attend our meetings and see some of our mugs every now and then, but, it's, so, I think we entertain, I'm open to entertaining any
Yes.
option we have.
we'll
Let
move
us
forward.
know if,
Okay.
between now and 2 weeks from now, if you need anything from us or.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll probably reach out to the majority of you by Friday.
That'll work.
Okay,
So
Yep. Sounds good.
thank you.
Chris.
Thanks.
City managers report.
Mayor, Commissioners, just giving you some updates. In discussions with the hospital, of course, our 11, they did feel that during the Easter holiday that things died down. They picked up yesterday, back up again, so we'll watch that. But so far, everything is going good with the hospital. I don't want to speak for them, but it was positive. City staff is still doing what we got to do, and I know that is mowing is upon us, and it goes to, and a lot of cities are doing the same thing. I will let you know that the city of Manhattan has already decided to close their pool, and any other public amenities that they have. They're shutting them down for the summer season. I think that is, and we'll wait and see, and that's been our hope. We are advertising for lifeguards, but it is one of those that we have had talk that, you know, Memorial Day, which is around when we opened anyway. So we'll kind of wait and see and monitor that, but if that'll be a decision we'll bring to the commission and sit there and go, this is what the majority are doing. I think everybody's in question. Staff, we did. To let you know, we were in pursuit of masks, and we suggest the public, this is not necessarily to prevent you from getting it. It's the more idea, if you've got it and you've got a mask on, you're not spreading it.
Right.
So with that, we looked. We have another source that we're checking into, but we are looking at delivery dates. Now they extended out to June, July. There has been a new company. I'll get into it if this works out. They're offering to do this process for free, and they would do more or less a face mask for free for the city because of our essential work that's being done. We are pursuing that, so might have some good news there.
Mark,
Staff-
you might check with Fab Lab up at ICC. They were doing some with their 3D printers.
Yeah.
So you might check with them as
Yeah,
well.
and that's what, we're having a lot now reach out, and because we've explained what we were trying to do, and that was to get our employees practicing the idea that if you've got a cough, that mask keeps it.
Keeps it on you. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But other than that, staff is going forward. I appreciate what they're doing, and they are being safe, and things are, I know you'll thank the community, by and large, everybody's trying to comply with the emergency order. It's still confusing. We heard today that it will take more or less act of the legislature for the governor to go past May 1st. And, you know, it's supposed to expire next Monday. They feel it'll get to May 1st, but then because of state statute and law, that it'll be one of those that, but we feel that that will try to be extended. And the legislature is not meeting. So they'll have to figure that one out to get them to do things. So we wait every day and we listen and practice our safe distancing. And I appreciate the commission bearing with us as we're trying to do odd things, and then we find out that, you know, KDHE, the one department that we're waiting for information on, the gentleman is working 1 day a week.
Yeah.
You know, and then you go, well, how's that gonna work? So, but appreciate the commission for trying to be transparent as they can during this different and difficult time.
Yep. Comments from the commissioners and staff? Thank you, Mark.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Thank you to your staff as well. And I know the city folks are trying to do everything they can to maintain safety and look after themselves as well. of course, I can speak from personal experience. I have a son that works for the city, and and he's a police officer, so it is important to look after themselves. I mean, he's got 2 young kids, and certainly don't want to see anything happen to him as a result of this. So it's very important that they do look after themselves. I do want to mention Rick Whitson, our emergency manager for the county, has done an outstanding job, in my opinion, of getting information out to Montgomery County as a whole, and keeping track of these things, and being really a settling voice out there. He's done a wonderful job of that, and I just wanted to commend him on that. So
I agree.
Yeah.
He's done a great job on
If
communicating.
anybody, I say this for anybody listening, if you can go to his Facebook page and read some of the things he has, he doesn't just share and do statistics that the KDHE puts out, but he has a lot of good, inspiring things he puts out.
Absolutely.
About how we should be to each other at this time. And he's spot on in what he says.
Yes, he is.
Did want to commend Josh with code enforcement. We had a citizen complain about the latex gloves and the wipes from the grocery store blowing everywhere, or from the shopping center, I should say, right? I drove by there today. It looks to be improved. I don't know that it's all fixed, but it does look to be improved. So.
And today we were in and out missing, I will get that with the answer back on the store.
Oh, okay. Very good. Thank you. Yep.
Anything else?
I have nothing.
One other thing. Chris has done a good job sending us updates on this
Yes,
also. You know,
he
I
has to.
appreciate the emails
Absolutely.
every day from him.
Yep.
So, thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
Motion is made by Mayor Bauer, seconded by Commissioner Van Oster to adjourn. May I see a show of hands? Thank you.